About 5 years ago, I was serving at a Greek diner. One slow night, I see a woman walk in about 50 years old with a little boy tagging along behind her. He looked about 10 with a yellow shirt. I saw them head to a table, so I stood behind the bar and started pouring waters to bring over. The kid was about the right age to be old enough for our kid's cup, so I casually asked the other serving worker, "Hey, Nicole, you think that little guy is big enough for an adult cup? Or should I bring a kitty instead?" Nicole looked up at me, confused, and said, "What little guy?" "Well, that little boy that came with the lady over there." I glanced over, and now she's seated alone. "She came in by herself," said Nicole. "No, I saw him. He was about yay high, a yellow shirt, maybe 10. She looked at me again and said, "Okay, now you're creeping me out. She came in alone, I swear, there was no little boy." I was shocked. I asked Nicole to take the table for me. Part of me wishes that I had told the woman, but I was afraid that she'd think that I was nuts. Hell, I thought I was nuts. And I swear on all that is holy that I saw that little boy just as clear as anything. I've experienced a number of these, but this is the most recent, and I apologize if my storytelling is not the greatest. I've been through a lot of positive self-improvement type stuff recently. I bought myself a ring to commemorate my accomplishments. I took this very seriously, as I don't gift myself expensive things really. I found this beautiful ring in a local jewelry pawn shop that spoke to me. A stone and a color that I love with its beautiful asymmetric S design on each side of the band. I remember conversing with the clerk over the course of my shopping and realizing with her that I like the asymmetry specifically. I buy this ring and wear it constantly for a few weeks, looking at it often. I didn't wear it for about a week, and in that time, my longtime friend was describing to me a ring of her own gifted to her. I'd never seen it, and she'd said that she'd send me a picture later. She does, and it's very lovely, sort of old-fashioned like mine, with a unique band. I go to grab my own ring for a photo, and at this time, not having seen it for a while. But I instantly notice the design is not what I remembered. The band is suddenly symmetrical, and the sides are crossed loops instead of S-shapes. I know for sure that this is the same ring because I bought it a special little box that I keep it in any time that I took it off. And it was also basically the same enough that it had to be the one. But it was wrong. To then make matters worse, my friend sent another photo of her ring. The stone is a different color, the metal different, but the band on her ring is now the exact asymmetrical S that I had known my ring to be. The previous photo she'd sent is suddenly the same. I am still totally horrified over this, and I kind of want to get rid of this ring that I once loved.
I'm a French language teacher in Russia, an expat, and due to that, I should travel at least once a year to Moscow for documents. Embassy bureaucracy. And because I live in a city that's 2,000 kilometers far from Moscow, I use the planes each and every time. Now let's jump to the fun part. The time zone in Moscow is -2 hours. I flew to Moscow with my wife and landed safely. I went to the embassy at 9 a.m. and did my things, and by 10 a.m. I already finished. Now we have the whole day to visit Moscow before our flight back, which will be at 11 p.m. First, we visited Lenin Library, Undergrounds, Kremlin Gardens, the Cathedral, the Red Square, all by foot. And when I looked at the time, I was shocked. It's 11 a.m., which means this whole excursion took 1 hour. And I was so sure it took more because, for those who don't know, Moscow is a gigantic city, and we moved between places on foot. No taxi, no bus, just by feet. I thought that it's because of the time zone difference, and I felt a little tired after the flight. But no, my watch and phone were automatically updated when we got to Moscow. So we decided to find a place to eat, and we were looking here and there. Then we found a good spot. We settled and took lunch. Took a tour around malls and commercial centers, bought souvenirs, took coffee and a few cigarettes, and took a look at my phone. What the fuck? It's 11:30 a.m. Just 30 minutes gone. My wife noticed it too, and we felt a little weird. We are already tired, walking around places, and time is literally not moving or moving slowly. I suggested to sit at an open-air cafe and waste some time until 7 p.m. to go back to the airport. We sat down and took my 5th or 6th coffee that day and talked to my wife about anything and everything. Time goes and I felt that we sat for 2 hours minimum. But no, it was only 12. I lost it, and to not make the text long and boring, we kept moving between cafes and museums on this infinite day. And finally, when 7 p.m. hit, I said finally, for God's sake. It really felt like forever, and when I checked my steps counter, it was 400% plus than my expected number. We walked around 15 kilometers around the city center, and then I understood that something was unusual about that travel because when I got back to my city, the time was running as usual. I could feel how the time was going faster than in Moscow. What do you think?
I've never had any kind of paranormal or UFO experience that I know of, but I have experienced one extremely jarring glitch in the Matrix. I was in my apartment and bouncing a blue racket ball off the floor super hard so that it would bounce up to the ceiling and then back down to the floor. I was just playing a silly game where I was trying to get it to bounce back and forth as many times as possible. The ceiling was a flat white painted ceiling with literally no fixtures of any kind on it. On one of the bounces, the ball hit the floor, bounced up to the ceiling, but then sank right into it, disappearing right before my very eyes. I was seriously shocked. I thought that maybe I'd blacked out for a second or something, but I looked around immediately on the floor and I didn't see the ball anywhere, which should have been easy because it still had a ton of kinetic force in it and it should have been still bouncing or rolling. I tore the area apart looking for it, but I couldn't find the ball. It was pretty spooky. Then, about 30 minutes later, my wife got home. And when she opened the door to our apartment, I saw the ball fall out of the ceiling behind her in the hallway. I immediately ran out of there. And yep, there it was, just bouncing and rolling down the hall like it had fallen out of the ceiling about 20 yards away from where I saw it disappear. I remember this extremely vividly, both the sensory visual experience of seeing it disappear into the ceiling and the emotional shock that I was experiencing in that moment, as well as when it reappeared out in the hall. It's what got me to start seriously considering simulation theory, and now I'm fairly convinced that we are living in one. So my family has a pet bird named Kiki, and for the last several weeks or maybe months, I haven't brought Kiki down to hang out in my room because I don't have a stand for her. She's always in the upstairs rooms or the porch and never really down with me in the basement. So, finally today, I text my mom because she wasn't home if we have any playstands for Kiki, and she says that we have the black playstand in the cellar. I look around all over for it, which isn't much to scan over because it's a small area and the playstand is very big. I make sure that it was 100% not there because I just knew that it would be there when my mom came home. I felt like taking a video on my phone and sending it to her as proof, and I really wish that I had. My mom came downstairs 10 minutes ago and is like, it's right there. And internally, I died. But externally, I tried playing it off cool. I tried convincing her that it was 100% not there earlier. I believe she thinks I'm going crazy. I go in and out of the cellar part about probably 5 times a day, and I'm constantly going in there to get to the freezer. And the playstand is right next to the freezer. So if it was down there all along, then I must have missed it 100 times. And also again today, before texting her. I had a strong feeling it would reappear because that is something that always happens. Searching for something, asking your mom for help finding it, and then it mysteriously appears where you checked prior. But I figured that wouldn't be the case this time because the playstand is so fucking big. Boy, was I wrong. To add to this, I have also been seeing big bright white orbs zipping across my room. It has happened about 3 times in the past 2 days, and I've never had anything like this happen before. But that's a story for another time.
So, I recently became a homeowner, and I'm doing some small DIY renovations. Yesterday I bought a metal 2-step ladder at a local DIY store. It wasn't cheap, but I thought I'll need it the rest of my life anyway, so it's a good investment. I also picked up an online order they had pre-packaged for me. I distinctly remember picking up the bag and the ladder. The bag in my right hand with my car keys, the 2-step ladder with my left. It was awkward because it was entirely wrapped in plastic, so I dug my fingers into the plastic a bit while carrying to get some grip. Essentially, making a hole in the plastic so I could grip the handle inside, if you know what I mean. I remember walking outside and placing the 2-step ladder gingerly against my dad's car, and some older lady looking on while I did so. I opened the trunk and put the seat backwards so I can place it flat into the car, and I put the bag in the regular back area. I worked slowly, thinking it was safest this way as I didn't want to scratch up my dad's car inside either. I then called my mum to let her know it was taking a bit longer for me to get home because traffic was quite heavy, and I needed to return these blackout curtains at a discounter because they're too small for the windows I have in the new apartment. I remember quickly glancing behind me in the car while driving to the discounter because I suddenly had this weird gut feeling the 2-step ladder was missing or that I forgot it. But I was wrong. It was right there. I dropped off the curtains and returned to the car. I notice a missed call and call back. It's a woman called Jeanette from the DIY store. She says she doesn't know why I got called. She takes a moment and asks her colleagues, and no one knows who called or why. I speculated with her that I must have forgotten something, but if this is the case, I'll either notice or I'll get called back. She agreed. So I drive home, park, and enjoy the rest of my evening. Fast forward to today. The 2-step ladder is not in the car. I was too tired to bring the stuff from the car yesterday evening, so I was going to do it this morning before Dad needs the car. I drove over to the new place, park, open the trunk, and notice the 2-step ladder is missing. I thought maybe it fell in the crevice between the seats and the front seat, even though there's not enough space. But it's not there. Then I call my dad thinking maybe he took it out because it was shifting too much in its place or something. So I call him and he says he didn't see anything. And he says he didn't see any 2-step ladder. So I get this weird sinking gut feeling. I check my wallet immediately to see if I can find the receipt. And it's there and it says I bought it. I then call the store, asking if there is a 2-step ladder around the cash register or outside that was forgotten. And there is. It was the same Jeanette woman who answered, by the way. She remembered me from the day before and said the 2-step ladder is still there. But the thing is, I don't recall that she and I talked about how I left it behind. I told her that I was convinced I took it and laughed it off. But now, I feel super weirded out and uncomfortable. Maybe I just remember it all wrong, or have some intense false memories I created in my tired mind. Is that possible? Because that would be awfully detailed, wouldn't it?
(2019 to 2020 New Year's Eve). I was celebrating with my family and the countdown started. 10, 9, 8. And as soon as the countdown hit the number 1, I felt like my mind was sent into another reality. I was sent in a dark living room of someone else's house, where almost immediately a fair-haired bearded stranger peeped from one door of another room. He smiled, came over, and asked if everything was okay. And for some reason, I felt deeply close to that stranger. I returned to reality, confused from what happened. This vision lasted for 2 to 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Everyone around me was cheering, and I joined them, and I didn't think about it that much. On the same month of January 2020, 2 months before COVID-19 lockdown hit my country, I returned to the city that I was attending college at to do some finals. One evening after the finals, I felt in the mood for a date, so I opened my Grindr app and found someone that I had never seen before. Some pics were not that clear, some were blurry, and others were taken from odd angles, but I could tell that he was my type. We chatted a bit, and then after that he asked me out, so we fixed a date for the very next day. It was a Saturday night around 10 p.m., and I was waiting for him at the place that we would have met at. Soon after he called my number, informing me that he was close. I saw a dark figure approaching me from the other side of the road, and I thought, well, that's gotta be him. Although it was dark and I couldn't see him very well. As he came closer, the light beam of those lampposts that I was standing next to hit him. My date was the guy from the vision. I froze, shivers all over my body. I cannot explain why, but his pictures didn't resemble at all the person who, at that moment, stood in front of me. I must have looked shocked. He smiled, gently pressed my shoulder and asked, "Are you okay?" Again, another shock. Deja vu. I came back and we introduced, laughing about that awkward first impression. He surely thought that I was struck by his look. God, what a splendid date we had. I'd be quicker if I list the things we didn't talk about. When he drove me back to the dorm I was staying at, he asked me if I wanted to join him for dinner at his place the next day, and I agreed. The day after, I went to the given address. He welcomed me and had me put my jacket in the living room. He told me to join him in the kitchen, so he turned off the light of the living room. So I stood there, in the dark, having another kick-ass deja vu. To make things creepier, he actually peeped out of the kitchen door and laughed, thinking that I was acting all shy. I lived the exactly same picture that I saw in my vision. Till nowadays, that has been the best night of my life, and I have never felt so close to someone that I barely knew. For the time we used to hang out, I felt a deep and strange connection between us, as if I had known him for a lifetime. We dated for half a year and eventually had to stop seeing each other for some reasons. But that person still holds a special place in my heart. The last New Year's Eve, I was really hoping for another vision, but nothing happened. Strange experience, the strangest that has ever happened to me so far. So this story happened to me about 10 years ago. I was working retail at a mall and a kids' clothing store called Justice. I was a college student, but working close to home during the summer months. To be honest, I wasn't crazy about the job, so it didn't really bother me that they had me scheduled on call-in shifts. As you might guess, call-in shifts weren't guaranteed working hours, so I'd call in an hour before the shift and they would tell me if they needed us to come in or not. Now, in the strip mall across the street, there was also another Justice store, but our stores never collaborated or worked together. They were two of the same, yet completely separate businesses. Midway through the summer, I've got the job down and I know what I'm meant to do. I know all the managers and co-workers, and it's generally a pleasant place to work in. One afternoon, I pick up the phone to call in and ask if they needed me to come in or not. And my manager, a genuinely nice woman, probably in her early 50s, is completely shocked that I'm calling. She tells me that they already found a cover because a girl, claiming to be my best friend, called the store to tell them that I wasn't coming in and that I had been in a terrible accident on the highway. This person gave them my name and said that I was in a coma at the hospital, surrounded by my family and friends, and my parents didn't know if I would make it. My manager sounded genuinely concerned, as did the assistant manager. No one else shared my name at that store, and we even called the store across the street, and they did not have anyone with my name working there, nor did anything like that happen to one of their employees. The crazy thing is that I have been having a lot of dreams of getting into car accidents involving huge semi-trucks during the summer and even before this incident. I asked my friends if they had played a sick joke, and they all had no idea what I was talking about. Besides, my friends are not the type of people to joke about that kind of stuff. They are people that I trust with my life, not the kind to joke about my death. The only other explanation would be a customer maybe. But number one, I didn't have a name tag with my name on it. And number two, even if I did, who remembers retail associates' names? Well, unless they're going out of their way to write a review. Number three, there was no motive. I never had any unpleasant interactions, and even so, it was just mothers and 7-year-old daughters shopping at my store. So yes, I feel like there could be an explanation, but nothing adds up. Think of it what you will, but I still think about that phone call and feel uneasy whenever I get on the highway. I have Raynaud's syndrome, poor circulation to my extremities, especially my toes. So, even on days like today when it's 75 degrees Fahrenheit, I wear slippers over my socks, or else my feet would hurt. Yesterday evening, about 7:30 p.m., I decided to have a shower. As I always do, I took my slippers off and left them on the floor in front of my recliner. I went to my bedroom, got my robe, walked back through the living room, kicked one of my slippers closer to my chair so that I wouldn't trip over it, and went to the bathroom from my shower. My husband was in the living room this whole time, but could not see my slippers from his desk. Showered, I went back to my room to get dressed. I come out, and no slippers. My husband and I looked under all of our furniture, tore apart the living room, bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen, which I walked through to get to the bath, but no slippers. They're just gone. Neither of my kids, both are adult sons, came downstairs while I was in the shower. And our cats are too small to drag the slippers and wouldn't have taken both anyway. And my dog is elderly and has never chewed on or taken any shoes in her life. I hope that myself in another timeline is happy with her new slippers because my damn feet are cold. I haven't kept an alarm clock next to my bed for years because they kept on getting faster. I only realized this when I eventually noticed that I was arriving to work about 20 minutes before the start of my shift. I used to time my trip to work to arrive a few minutes before the start of my shift. More often than not, I was just on time. I realized my alarm clock was, after getting fast, reset it, and it kept on getting faster, so I replaced it. I started to use an alarm clock that my partner had for years before we even met, which was a different brand and style, and that one also started to get faster. I then went and got an alarm clock from my parents' house. That was the same make of the original alarm clock, but a different model and style. The third alarm clock also started to get faster. So, that's 3 different alarm clocks from 2 different manufacturers that all couldn't keep the right time. All kept gaining time and getting faster. It just seemed that when my alarm clock was placed next to where I sleep, it can't keep the time. I had at one point thought that maybe I was animated in my sleep and I might have been hitting the buttons with my hands, or possibly when trying to hit the snooze button. But I thought the odds of that happening as the button layout was different on all of them. And why did they only get faster by small amounts over time? I might have expected to see other strange things like random alarms being set. All this happened over several months, and I just stopped using alarm clocks and started relying on my phone. Previously, I didn't like to do that because Android phones need to be left turned on, and I used to like to turn my phone off overnight. So backstory, I'm from Birmingham, But I moved to Denver in 2013 with my girlfriend and lived there for about 5.5 years until we had our daughter and decided to move home to be closer to family. We would always come home for major holidays while we lived there because traveling on our own dime across the country as a 19 to 23-year-old was kind of expensive. We were back in home visiting for Christmas when me, and 3 buddies from back home decided to try a new 24-hour cookie place downtown called Insomnia Cookies. When we walked in, the place was packed, so the line wrapped around the inside of the room from the register to the front door, and we were basically last in line behind about 5 other groups of people. I heard the lady behind the counter yell towards our direction, but at me specifically. "Hey, you forgot to get your tips the other night when you left early." And I don't respond because obviously she couldn't have been talking to me since I live in Denver, Colorado. So she repeated herself again. This time, I responded and apologized because I wasn't the person she was looking for, but jokingly told her that I'd take the tips anyway. She looked kind of annoyed and was like, right. Well, if you want them, I can grab them for you." I told her again that I was just kidding and that I really was not this person who she thought she worked with every single day. So after reassuring her, she again, with kind of an attitude, took our order and we were on our way. We all talked how weird it was on the way back to my girlfriend's mom's house, but chalked it up as just another look-alike story. Well, fast forward to last night, which is 5 years later, my girlfriend, who is ironically pregnant again, was craving snickerdoodle cookies from the same place. So around 10 at night or so, I decided to take the 30-minute trip downtown to grab her favorite cookies. It was a Saturday night, so like it was the last time I went, it was slam-packed to the point where the line ran outside. I finally made it to the door when I realized that I had forgotten my wallet and my phone in the car. As I turned around, I frustratingly said out loud, damn it." And to my surprise, a guy was walking up in an Insomnia Cookie hat and a shirt and said, "What's wrong? Did you forget your wallet or something?" And I replied, "Yeah, my wallet and my fucking phone." And he said, "Damn, well, run and grab it. I forget what you usually get." I was super thrown off, so I just said, "Oh, a half dozen snickerdoodle cookies." And to my surprise, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Go grab your stuff and find me when you get here. I'll make sure they get you some fresh ones made." And then he went inside. The whole walk back to my truck and to the store, I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? I finally make it back and don't see him, so I just hop back in the long-ass line. After about 10 minutes of standing in an unmoving line, he pops his head out looking for me and yells, "Yo, bro, what are you doing? I told you to come and find me. These cookies are getting cold, you know." And then hands the cookies to me, shakes my hand, and tells me it's good to see me and he will see me again soon. So again, I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? He walks around the corner and I take a $20 bill out and walk to the front of the line to the lady at the register. I hold up my $20 and ask, how much do I owe you for these?" And she said, "What do you mean? You hurt him. You're good to go. I'll see you again soon." I just turned and walked out, still in shock about who the hell they think I am. But apparently, I have a look-alike good enough to get me someone else's tips and a free half-dozen cookies. For the past 2 months, since it has gotten nicer out there, my partner and I have been driving out more. Obviously, a lot of places are jam-packed and more people are out and about because COVID is slowly being put down. But sometimes, we go to places that end up being empty. For example, a gas station, a car wash, the general market, you name it. Now, for the part that always gets me, when I go inside the places to where the road is out of sight and return not even 1 minute later, it's already packed with people and there was not a sight of them before. This has happened to me so much. I mentioned it to my sister who was with me on a gas station off the back road, which I then went into for a Red Bull. I came out and all the gas pumps were full and many people were in the parking lot. Same when my partner and I were cleaning the car, and suddenly 10 people decided to vacuum and also wash their car. I don't know if it's a coincidence or maybe a glitch in the matrix, but I really feel like some people are just part of the simulation. I encourage you guys to pay attention to this, and also, please let me know if this has happened to you. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.